Hello everyone, this is Matt Vadney. I'm here to tell you about how you can use adjectives to describe, or rather to compare, the descriptions of nouns to each other. Now there are three kinds of adjectives if you think about it. The kind of adjectives you know the most about are called positive adjectives. This is when you're not making any kind of comparison. You're just describing something, like something is pretty or new. Or you could say in a sentence, that computer is fast. But suppose you want to compare something that you're just describing the description of two things. We call, when we describe two nouns, comparative, because you're comparing two nouns to each other. So you can recognize these words because they end in ER. Words like prettier, or newer, or sticking to the theme of the computer is faster, that computer is faster than this computer. Look at this. We're comparing two computers. And so we're using the word faster, specifically adding the ending faster to compare those two. Just ignore my Alexa speaker out there. I call it a different name. Okay, and then the last way to compare nouns using adjectives is we call it superlative. When you're making a comparison between three or more nouns, the easiest way to think about this is you're comparing one noun to all the others. So therefore, you might describe it as, oops, sorry, grabbed the wrong sentence. Something is the newest, or the prettiest. Or in the sentence about computers is, of all the computers, one is the fastest. So that, we're comparing that one to all the others. And so we end it with an EST. So just to remember, when you're just describing one noun, we call it positive, and you don't really change the structure of the word. When you're comparing two nouns, you end it usually with ER. And if you're comparing a noun to all the others, you end it with EST. Now, there are some slight spelling rules about this. When you're spelling comparative and superlative adjectives, and they're one-syllable words, like say the word bigger, you double the last letter, and you just add the ending ER or EST. So for example, big. Big is a single-syllable word. It ends in a consonant, so we double that consonant and make it B-I-G-G-E-R. Same thing with big when we're adding EST. We double the final consonant and spell it B-I-G-G-E-S-T. Now, when you have longer adjectives, you don't respell them differently to make comparisons or superlative comparisons. You use these helping words. You use the word more and less when you're comparing two nouns and using an adjective, and you use the most or least when you're comparing to three or more nouns. Like, for example, talking about helpful, describing something as more helpful than the other. Well, then you would say more helpful or less helpful. Notice there is no such thing as helpfuler or helpfulerest. Okay, that's just too tongue-tying. Just as there's nothing more exciting-er, it's most exciting or least exciting. Now, there are irregular words because that's how our language works. So we might have words like the word good. We use good to describe nouns. And when we compare with the word good, we describe something as good. But when we say something is good compared to something else, or more good, we use the word better. When we think as something as more good than everything else, we call it best. Some more words, we have many, more, and most. Many, it certainly gives a number, but it also can describe an amount. When you're comparing amounts, you can use more or most. That certainly goes for words like little, less, or least. Now, the one that looks the most different besides good is bad. There is no such thing, believe it or not, as badder or baddest, at least in our language officially. We describe something as bad. We might say that something is worse than something else, or that something is the worst compared to everything else. Okay? All right, so that's how nouns, that's how we can use adjectives to describe nouns. Again, when there's no comparison, when you're just describing something, we call it positive. When you're comparing two nouns, it's called comparative, and they usually end in ER, or they use the helping words more or less. When something is superlative, we're comparing something to all the others. Think of it as superior or super. And they usually end in EST, or it uses words like most or least. Okay? All right. Good luck, everyone, and enjoy.